trap.
It's probably empty.
We should take it.
What?
Marty, help me get it. Guys, enough, all right? It's 10 a.m. and Martin's already transformed into Laura Croft and back. And I haven't had my breakfast yet. What? How are you doing that? Holy balls, I'm doing that. Guys, I'm a Jedi.
Oh yeah, this is gonna go awesome. What do you want? A TV? You take it.
Well deduced, Miss Hardwick. However, the device is not our primary objective.
On today's show, we'll meet the director of the League of Ordinary Gamers, and we'll find out how he got started creating web series.
The first movie I ever made was at the end of a Theater Arts 1 class, my freshman year of high school, where we were supposed to make a 5 to 7 minute movie, and my classmates all, freshman year of high school, they were making dance-off movies and stuff like that, and I just didn't even think about that, and I ended up making this Civil War epic. And I looked up when we were screening all the movies and realized, sort of a which of these is not like the others kind of situation, and kind of looked around and went, wow, I took this a lot more seriously than anybody else. Maybe there's something to this. So that summer I bought some editing software, and I would whip up these fake movie trailers for my favorite books, World War series about an alien invasion. I'd take footage from this movie and footage from that movie and mash it up. And then after high school, or during high school, I made some short films that went to some film festivals and that kind of thing, and then I ended up going to USC Film School. My first web series was called The Codex. It was a Halo 2 machinima series, which is making movies using video games. And it started because a friend of mine and I were playing Halo 2 on the day it came out, and running around the map, just sort of getting used to everything so we'd have an edge up on our friends when we were playing it. And we ended up seeing this structure in the middle of one of the maps. It was a big cave, and there's this building in the middle, and we started talking to ourselves, just idle conversation, talking about, what do you think that is? And we ended up coming up with this whole story about what the building is and different parts and what the backstory is, and then we ended up about these characters that came around it, and then we kind of looked up after about an hour, and we were like, wow, that's a story worth telling. Right. And so after that, we just decided to do it. We started making the movie, and that was The Codex, and 20 episodes, and 10 months later, we ended up being on MTV and NPR. We got 90 million hits, and the editor-in-chief of Wired magazine made a post on his professional blog about us, saying that his kids' favorite movies weren't Disney or Pixar movies. They were made by these kids in Texas. Codex I made back in Dallas, where I grew up, and actually it was a crunch as we got to the end, and we released episode 20, the finale, 36 hours before I left to go to college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we released it on Friday night, and I left to go to college on Sunday morning. When the Codex took off, like I said, the Codex wrapped, just before I left to go to college, so the sort of aftermath of the Codex was unfolding as I was in college. So the MTV interview happened November, my first semester of college and that sort of thing. So I was still sort of riding that wave, and so we ended up making The Heretic, which was a 7-episode prequel to the Codex, the next summer.
Oh, okay.
So we did that summer, and then we did the post-production because it has some 3D animation sequences. We did that the first semester of my sophomore year, and then we released it at the end of my sophomore year on February 9th, which is every year we have something on February 9th. And so I did The Heretic, and then after that, film school started heating up, and they're not lying when they say that you don't have time to do anything when you're in film school. You're making the movies that you have to do for class, and that's it. And so I did the film school thing, and then once I graduated, I started getting back and sort of reviving Edgeworks. Yeah, it's called The League of Ordinary Gamers. It's our first live-action web series, and it was written by a friend of mine, Louisa Ogier. directed by myself, director of photography Megan Foster, and just the most amazing cast and crew that anybody has ever worked with. And I know everybody says that, and like, they can't all be right, but take my word for it, I am, because this cast and crew was just phenomenal. And it's the story of a trio of roommates who discover a TV left in an alley, this enormous TV, and they decide to take it. And what they don't realize at first is that this TV is actually hiding a device that can grant superpowers. So they wake up the next morning after a long night of gaming and they start to realize that something has happened. But that being said, they're not particularly motivated to go fight crime or anything. They kind of just want to hang out and mess with each other. And so the series is about them sort of dealing with what's happened to them and exploring their powers as a means of messing with each other. But at the same time, the people who made the TV aren't content just to let them sit there with it, so they sort of get drawn into this larger world of espionage. The way it came about was Megan, the girl who ended up being the director of photography, was working at Best Buy, and she ended up using her employee discount to get us this enormous television, and everybody who walks into our apartment just has to stop and look at it for a minute because it's absolutely huge. And when Louisa Osier saw this TV when she came over the first time, she was just as surprised as everybody by how huge this TV was. And then she told us a week or two later, "So I'm writing this script about your TV." And we were like, okay, you know, I don't really know what that means, but cool. And she kept talking about it, and eventually a few weeks later, she hit us with these scripts for a web series that centered around our TV. We read them and they were hilarious. I mean, she's an incredible writer. And they just had this energy and this fun, and perhaps best of all for beginning filmmaker is that it was designed for our apartment. It's our TV, it's our living room, it's our kitchen, and our hallway, and our everything. And so we didn't have to get any sets, we didn't have to get any locations, and so we just decided to go for it. So we put everything together and filmed it, and yeah. Well, like I said, Louisa Osier wrote it. She is a master's student in screenwriting and just an absolute comedic genius. Great timing and everything about what she comes out with, I just love. And Megan Foster is the director of photography. She's the one who knows the technical side. You know, when she and I are working together, I'm the sort of ivory tower intellectual that I'm like, I want this to feel nostalgic. And then she's the one who turns to the crew and says, okay, we need this lens and this light and this gel and this, and actually turns it into something. We found a couple of PAs who we immediately promoted to gaffer and first AC when they proved to be absolutely amazing at what they did, named Matt Severns and Danny Cogden. And they were both just incredibly hard workers. And then we had a sound guy named Doc, is what you call him. His name's Stephen Bernard. And he was, you know, he's worked on a lot of things, and he's got some real experience. He was a medic in the Navy, which is why they call him Doc. And he was just an absolutely great sound guy. And it turns out that when he's not doing sound, he does fight coordination and combat stuff. Like, he's the guy that if you want a SWAT team in your movie, you call him, and he either trains your actors how to actually look like SWAT guys, or he brings the guys to be the SWAT team in the background. And so there are a couple of scenes, it's not exactly an action series, but there are a couple of scenes where somebody like chokes somebody out and stuff like that, and he was able to show you how to do that and make it look believable, and more importantly, make it safe. The cast is the three roommates are Kelly Mishek, Kelly Sue Eder, and Andrew Wolf. Andy Wolf works with me at our job, so I knew him and I thought he would be really good as Martin. And then Kelly Mishek and Kelly Eder auditioned for us along with the rest of the cast, and they were just amazing. We had the first round of auditions were individual. You are auditioning for this role, and we would read with you. And then we did a callback audition where we brought our favorite people together and put them into combinations and had them do a group scene as the three roommates. And when these three came together, it was like, you know, the footage of the three kids from Harry Potter, the first time that they did their thing, and you were just, yeah, this works. This is the one. Well, one of the biggest challenges was just, you know, the budget. Every starting filmmaker has to wrestle with that. But it was also a matter of people have day jobs and all that kind of thing, and scheduling it, getting it done. We blocked it out in 6 days. and they were 12-hour days for the actors and considerably longer for, you know, starting and ending, that sort of thing. It was a really fast production, but we were lucky enough that the script was so much fun that everybody was cracking up, you know, doing this. And we had found actors and crew members who really were driven by the love of wanting to do this. You know, there are people who want to be movie stars, and then there are people who want to be actors. And these were people who wanted to be actors. They loved getting into the characters and getting into, you know, the scenes and really seeing how you can do it, which is an amazing thing. As somebody who, you know, my first projects were my friends, and that's great. It's fun to work with your friends, but it is so nice to work with people who are professionals, who really want to do this. I actually remember from The Heretic, from one of my earlier web series, the first time I worked with a real professional actor, I told him he was doing a voiceover for a newsreel sequence, and I told him I wanted to be, you know, the stereotypical newsreel voice, and he turned to me and he said, "Which one?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "World War I or World War II?" I was like, "I don't even know what you're asking me. What do you..." And he said, "Well, you know, World War II is the quarterback. It's the all-American voice. Our boys going over to Europe." And I said, "Yeah, that's the newsreel voice, right?" And he said, "Well, I mean, you've also got World War I, that tinnier voice about our boys going off to Europe." And I sat back and I was like, "That's amazing that you actually think about this." And that's exactly how the cast for League was. They were, you know, I found out that they had been getting together beforehand on their own to talk about different things and hashing out different things. And so anyway, we were absolutely slammed with our schedule, but they were in such good spirits the whole time. They were having so much fun that it was an absolute breeze. Well, we started out with a fairly basic website. Ryan Luther actually designed it, my partner on the Codex. And we had, you know, just videos, and then we had some pictures, and then we had the forum. And the forum was great because people would like our videos and then come and register, and then they'd stay. And they'd talk about our videos, but they'd also talk about politics and music and movies and that kind of thing. And then it built this community that 7 years later is a base from which we can launch things. It's a pre-existing audience that sort of stabilizes us in the crazy winds of popularity on YouTube and that kind of thing. So it evolved over time. After a while, I took over the design of the website. I ended up completely recoding the forums. As of right now, we have a completely custom forum called Trajan that is exactly what we need because it's custom coded and it ties together everything. And so it's been a really wonderful thing to have sort of a home base, not just a YouTube channel or something like that. You've got a YouTube channel, but you also have your website that you can put your content on the way you want it, format it the way you want, and then have your fans come and be a part of it, you know, discuss it, make fan art and all that kind of thing. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that Edgeworks has been able to be around for 7 years. Well, for League, we're going to be selling DVDs with special features and all that sort of thing. I also composed all the music for the Codex, The Heretic, and then League. So we sell soundtracks and that sort of thing. The Codex, we couldn't sell DVDs because it's Halo footage, and that's Microsoft, and Microsoft and I have gone round and round. Microsoft and I know each other well. But, so we couldn't sell DVDs with the Codex. We did make DVDs, which we would give away under certain circumstances in contests and that sort of thing, but we couldn't sell them. But with League, one of the nice things about a live-action web series is we own it.
You own it, right?
And so we can sell DVDs and we can sell merchandising rights and everything like that and really build it up into a franchise. Well, I think it's kind of a two-step process. The main thing that's going to get it well-known is for there to be great web series. You know, the way people fell in love with radio was through the radio shows and the music and the news. The way people fell in love with TV was because there were great shows to watch and that sort of thing. So I think the way that web series are going to get known is for really great content, is because those mothers and fathers and grandmas are going to hear from their kids, "You have to watch this." And then they're just going to know it's a series on the web. I watched it on the web. It's a web series. But I think the way that that's going to happen is either, hopefully both, but at least one of, really talented people committing to web series, treating it not only as a sandbox for their further career, but also making web series. This is what I want to do, in the same way that some people want to make TV shows and some people want to make movies. Some people want to make web series. or money coming in, which is the big unanswered question in the world of web series, is how do you make this a business? How do you make money on videos you release for free? So when that question gets answered, when somebody finally figures out how to make money from web series, that's the moment that the people who make movies and TV shows are going to start making web series, and you're going to see a lot more cross-pollination between them. But it's mainly going to come down to the talent. It's going to come down to, is there something worth watching?
So what I'd like to highlight from today's interview with Alexander is that how he used an existing website that had a built-in community of users to launch his web series from. If you have access to a base of users who are already on the web for a particular reason or they have a particular interest, and you build a web series that fits into that community, that's going to give you an audience, a starting point, an advantage over web series creators who are making something that there may not be an existing audience for, or the audience may not be already gathered together. So that's an advantage that you need to look for if you're trying to build an audience for your web series. Find some area, a message board, a chat group, something that doesn't have that content or that theatrical or web series content that you're going to create, and build it and work it into that community. That's a possible way to build your online audience. I'm James Tucker, and you've been watching The Web Series Show. You can watch the full uncut episode on our website, thewebseriesshow.com.